Hello.
It's like
Bye.
goodbye.
Goodbye.
But like, don't lock the door. Thanks.
Yeah.
Anyway. No.
Hi. Hi, y'all.
Claudia.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
How you doing?
Hi. Hi, all around.
How you doing?
How you doing? How you doing?
I'm good. I felt like an adult today. I actually did chores. I made myself breakfast.
And dinner.
And, well, I made the household dinner. So, like, Keith had dinner. I made some turkey burgers. And then made myself, like, a spinach pizza. Oh, I started Ultimatum Queer Love. That's what it's called. And it is a ride. That's all I could say. It's a ride.
I like your hair. And I'm just going to say it again. I know I already told you this off camera. I guess it wasn't on camera, but it was like off recording.
Yes.
And it looks so fluffy.
Thanks.
And like she's ready for the breeze.
Oh, thank you. I try. What I will say is Happy Pride.
Happy Pride to you too. And this is part 2 of our Pride Month special.
Yeah.
Yeah. Today we're going to do our formal, proper book review for House on the Cerulean Sea. Is it on or in?
In.
Okay. And that's what we have written everywhere. And then when I was Googling stuff for just like for reference, I kept coming across on, and that didn't make sense to me. And I know this is not the etymology episode or like the grammar episode, but it was very upsetting because I felt like I was just learning prepositional phrases for the first time.
Yeah, because I feel like if we're talking about how prepositional phrases indicate location, if you're on the Cerulean Sea, then it would be a floating house in the Cerulean Sea, like on the Cerulean Sea, like almost like wild thornberries, where they're like bright, honestly, badass. I would
Humvee.
Convoy. I think it's Convoy.
It's the truck that has the raft that comes out, right?
Yeah, well, it has like everything. It's kind of like real life Magic School Bus.
The average price of an AM General Humvee is $33,477. That's it?
That's not bad.
Like luxury cars cost more.
It's giving that we're gonna become the wild thornberries, and I'm on board.
The question is, can a civilian buy a Humvee? It is completely legal to own, drive, and purchase as long as it is properly licensed, insured, and covered. You are safe to drive this impressive vehicle.
That's fire.
Let me do Humvee Wild Thornberries and see what I think.
No, comfy. You're right. I don't know why. I think I always just interpreted maybe with how like the voice actress speaks. I've just registered it as convoy, or maybe I was like, that's an actual word.
This is actually okay. So it's Comvee that they had on the Wild Thornberries. You heard convoy, and I heard Humvee.
Well, Comvee makes the most sense because it's a blending word.
It is a blended word, isn't it?
It is, because it stands for communications vehicle. That's what I learned from Wiki fandom.
Oh, I love that.
I love this so much.
Okay.
You know that the girl that voiced Eliza Thornberry is Gretchen Wieners, I think, in Mean Girls.
Ooh, I didn't. Do they sound the same?
Oh yeah, like you can't unhear it once you know.
Lacey Chabert.
Mm-hmm. That was her.
She was also on Party of Five. Yep, it's her.
See?
Wow.
You're welcome. Welcome to Cloudy's Corner of Useless Information.
She was also Meg Griffin in the first season of Family Guy.
Yeah, and then that was taken over by Mila Kunis.
Gotcha. Right.
Anyway.
Yeah, moving along. This book, House in the Cerulean Sea. It is, what's the word when you're swallowed? Not swallowed. Enveloped. It is enveloped by a deep blue sea, but it's on an island. So it's like not only in the sea, and that's why it's not on the sea. Oh my gosh, salud, mama.
Thanks. I was like, ooh, my mic is too close to my face. It's gonna scare the crap out of you.
It really would have.
I think I was the one that chose this one.
You were.
So fun fact, y'all, we read this back in January, and
Yeah.
this was before our formal recordings, and so we had full-fledged book club about this, like in pieces, and then it kind of helped in sparking our idea for this. But anyway, I think I came across it on like a BuzzFeed list or something. It might have been a quiz where it was like, what book should you read this year? And I said, okay. So then I went through it and I got The House in the Cerulean Sea, and I was like, ooh. And then I put it on my job Secret Santa list because I think I took it in like November or December. Yeah, and then I put like a bunch of little things because we had like a $20 or $30 limit for everybody. So then my Secret Santa got me this along with a crap ton of other things. So she was just like, I loved your list because I just got you all the things that fell under the thing. And
We
also,
stand.
what's cool about her is that I have a meeting tomorrow with my boss and like two other people from my department so that we could discuss beginning of the year stuff. And my Secret Santa, is going to be on there. And girl just took the LSAT. I'm going to ask her if it's giving 179 like Elwood's. And I'm so excited.
Ow.
So we're probably going to be like 179. And she's going to be like, guys, I got a 170. We're going to be like, you got a 179, bitch. Like, stop.
Close enough.
Would you like to give us the plot synopsis?
Of course. I will preface with this is genre-wise, this is a fictional story. And we'll talk a little bit about the setting and some of the issues the setting gave us. And then elements of romance developing over time, as well as other elements. But overall, I would say this is a fictional story. But I wouldn't call it fantasy, despite there are magical beings in it. Or would you call it fantasy?
I mean, Harry Potter is categorized as fantasy.
It is.
And it has that similar vibe of the first book where it's like a magical world living in a normal, regular, degular world.
And you wouldn't call it magical realism.
Oh, no! Because I would have hated it. Sorry.
Same.
Sorry, everyone.
Sorry, everyone, but no thank you. Okay, that's why we liked it.
Yeah.
Okay, so actually, I'm going to call this a fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
But the world feels very real. So yeah, just kind of like the wizarding world. Okay. So Linus Baker is our protagonist, as we discussed in the last episode. He's an ordinary middle-aged man, and he works for his world's like magical child protective services in this town. And the town gives us like London/Seattle. Like throughout our own book club discussions of this story, we kept arguing over where was this in America, was this in England? Couldn't figure it out. The author TJ Klune, I believe, is American, but
yeah,
it was just so we say London, Seattle because of this crappy dark weather, very drab, buses that never come, annoying metro systems. So it like wasn't a big enough city to be like New York or DC or Tokyo. We do love London, but can't deny how gray it is there.
Listen, I'd still move tomorrow.
So we weren't really certain. I think actually in like after we looked it up a little, it was meant to be a blended, made up place that was reminiscent of all of the above. So that's pretty cool.
So we both were right.
Yeah, and so relatable just from our experiences in similar places, you know.
At least for me, like where Linus works, like that location straight up is giving like Ministry of Magic vibe. So I think that's why my brain was like, oh, duh, London. And so I just kind of registered like where he lived as like the outskirts of London. And then like where he ends up, you know, at the house in the Cerulean Sea, I kind of categorized that as like Brighton, which is like vacation England.
Absolutely, like waterfront England, but like
Waterfront.
England is an island.
I know, but it's like it was like vacation
Pier Town.
pier to yes. What is the beach town? Beach town.
Beach Town. Like small suburban. We'll get back to his place of work after the
Yes.
plot
Yes,
summary.
absolutely.
So Linus works at this ministry. I don't even remember what it's called. Because it's forgettable.
Dichotomy, I think is the
Dichotomy. Okay.
Mhm.
And he's just he reports to work. It's a public service job. He just goes and comes home, goes and comes home. And he floats through life with his cat Calliope. We didn't mention her and her Greek name reference prior.
But we gonna talk about that.
We're going to talk about her for sure. In the very beginning of the story, Linus has no notable friends, no particular interests. He vaguely likes music that he plays once in a while. Everything for him is just kind of blah and gray, like the environment, right? So very, very Shakespearean, where the weather reflects the, plot, or where the characters are in their story so far. So Linus then gets sent on this super secret and super sus mission to an island, Marsyas, we also didn't touch on that, in the Cerulean Sea, to observe how things are going at this particular orphanage. And he is sent by extremely upper management, which is the most Wizarding World name for something like ever, which I agree with you. This is why we thought it was in like Englandish. The EUM. They send him here and they give him these really, really strict instructions, and he has like his case files and stuff he has to review. Basically, he has to investigate the headmaster and the 6 orphans who live there. The 6 magical orphans, because his department focuses on magical children and their welfare. So on this journey, he experiences character development of the best kind. He learns how to love himself, how to love others. He values what he can bring to a table. He defends those in need, and he learns about power dynamics and how he can actually hold power in the situation he's in. He can both take up space with his identity and also protect others with other parts of his identity.
Mm-hmm.
And not most importantly, but like we love this for him, he meets the love of his life. So that would be King Arthur the Aardvark Parnassus.
Yeah.
The headmaster at the school, the Marsyas Orphanage.
Happy Pride. Also, Dichotomy stands for Department in Charge of Magical Youth.
I'm crying.
Mm-hmm.
So that's who he works for. And the Dichotomy EUM, extremely upper management, sends him on the mission.
Yes. Yes. And honestly, I love the labeling of EUM, because it's just so vague that you understand that it's a government run thing based off of how vague that label is. Just extremely upper management. Like, that's it.
Yeah, it's like, when you work in corporate or in nonprofit, I mean, ultimately it all becomes the same. And everyone, like, the more promotions you get, the weirder your title gets, but ultimately it just is upper management. Like,
that's all it is.
You just assign and delegate jobs to people.
It's true. It's true. And so I feel like we have both incorporated extremely upper management into our vocabulary very, very, very quickly.
Yeah, like the second we saw that acronym, we just started referring to ivory towers in our lives, so to speak, as EUM. And like, it's understood when we both say it in context to each other. So that's definitely like a term we adopted because it was just so good.
Oh, look at us borrowing words.
TJ, you heard? We just cited you as our source. Yeah. I picked up a term actually from this book. It's a name. And it corresponds with Drag Race. Give me a second. So One of the children, which we're going to go way more in depth into this child in a moment. One of the children is the son of the devil.
Satan's
spawn. And he at first seems to be the scariest of the 6, but his name is Lucifer, but Arthur calls him Lucy. So on Drag Race, in one of the All-Star seasons, Trinity the Tuck in the Snatch Game presents as Lucy, which is Lucifer. So
Amazing.
anyway, so that was like an instant, like it was brewing in my head that Lucy is never really as bad as you think he is. He's just
It's true.
Lucy, right? So I started calling my dog like Wolfie Lou or Baby Lou, and then it became Baby Lucy, and then like it just became Lucifer. So like when he's really, really, really sweet, I just am like, look at my little Lucifer.
I love it.
So that's his AK. That's one of his AKAs.
I love it. Well, I mean, we're on the topic of Lucy. You might as well tell us about Lucy.
So I loved Lucy. I love the idea of there being an orphanage with like Satan's spawn within, and he's learning how to control his powers, you know? He was basically the misunderstood Antichrist who presented as this very, very, very powerful 6-year-old. He would hear voices. He also really loved, was it jazz?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's going to be very crucial. He loved records and jazz music, and because he was he's a baby, he's 6. I mean, this kind of reminded me of like X-Men when mutants
Yeah.
need to go to Xavier's school to learn how to control and hone their skills. Lucy is 6 and trying to figure out, what do you do with this power? I didn't mean to call him an antichrist. That's what other people call him. That's a derogatory term. I'm sorry.
It is.
He's just very dysregulated, let's say. So like a kid who is trying to learn, you know, to cope with things that make them really, really different, that they can ultimately grow into as superpowers. That's kind of what Lucy experiences.
I mean, also as a whole, he's just being a kid.
Yeah.
All for raising a kid. It's more so just regulating them.
Yep.
I mean, obviously doing other things too, parent. But but at its core, you're regulating this kid that just came into the world.
And that's what Arthur is doing. So Arthur is, I guess, like the only headmaster who was bold enough to take Lucifer into his open arms.
You're going all government calling him Lucifer. And then one of the other kids that we have here is Fee. She is what is known as a sprite, and that is essentially a deep wood fairy. Super popular in European mythology, and they are often seen as playful and obnoxious. That's all I could say about Fee, mostly because like we don't get a lot of showtime with her, and it makes me a little sad. But I understand we had 6 kids we had to talk about, and then other things. But her main mentor is Zoe. I think her name is Chapelwhite.
Yeah.
And she is essentially the caretaker. She's also a sprite. She's the caretaker of the island. And so like she'll take care of the island. She'll go off of the island. She went to actually go pick up Linus from the train station, and like she'll get like the groceries and stuff for the household too.
Yeah, so she can drive. But I think Linus actually makes fun of her because she doesn't have a license or something.
That feels right.
Yeah, he's so by the book. He plays by the rules, Linus. He's coming from this boring ass, you know, job that probably has a pension at the end of it. And that's why he does it. Yeah. But I love that like the mission behind his work will come into fruition. So one of the kids who really does this for him, I mean they all do. They all do it for him. But one of the kids that really fastens his buttons like that, we're just going to go with it, is Theodore. Theodore is a wyvern, and Cloudy, I think he was my favorite. He doesn't ever say a word in a tongue that is understood by the humans in the story.
Just one.
Or the Chauncey. Yeah, they all understand him anyway because he's so emphatic and communicative through other means. So a wyvern is a winged 2-legged dragon. Sometimes we'll see dragons with 4 legs or no legs, more like serpents flying. I guess it's more like a sea creature. You'll see this in art or in different like video games or Game of Thrones, all sorts of fantasy stories, different kinds of reptilian fire-breathing things with wings. So he also has a barbed tail. The first time we've ever seen wyvern historically was in heraldry, kind of like we see mermen and mermaids in heraldry in the Middle Ages. So like sigils for families.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But they were seen as a symbol of war, envy, pestilence, and strength to anyone bearing it. So this is now an orphan who is immediately loathsome and feared by others because of the symbolism attached to his species.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about his buttons later.
Yeah. Then we have Talia. Whoa. Then we have Talia. She is a gnome, but she looks like a male gnome. And she has like a whole beard and everything. And she is 263 years old, but she's still considered a child because gnomes don't mature apparently until they're 500 years old. So, but everyone that sees her automatically judges her because, again, she is a girl, but she presents like as a male gnome. And she is tough as nails too, but she's such a little softie.
She's the first kid that I think Linus encounters, right? In the
Mm,
garden when he shows up.
yes, because I think Calliope runs out of the car and he's like trying to find the cat. And instead, he finds Talia, and Talia threatens to bury him.
I love morbid children.
I know. I know. They're great.
So I know you love both of these last two kids. Which one would you like to talk about?
Oh, you know I want to talk about Chauncey.
Okay. So the next one up is Sal. And Sal is a very, very big, tall kid who is extremely. Your note on him made my heart hurt. His magical element is that he turns into a Pomeranian when he's scared, which is a lot. And it's related to a trauma response.
Yeah.
Every time he was in the story, both of us would just text each other like, "Are you on page whatever yet?"
Because he's just so cute.
It's like you just want to hold him and hug him and just help him move through these terrible times he's going through.
And I want to defend his honor. I want to punch everybody that made him feel this way.
Mm-hmm. And I think the Pomeranian was a great choice because he's a huge, tall, big kid. And a Pomeranian is the opposite of how he presents. A Pomeranian is fluffy and soft and cute, and people want to hold them and stuff. And the other side of a Pomeranian, Pomeranians are loud, barky, aggressive dogs who
They
will
are.
jump at anyone who gets near them.
Who have Napoleon complexes.
There it is.
Mm-hmm.
There it is. So, I think that was a great dog choice for Sal because he had to grow into that part of his shape-shifting.
Yeah. And then we have our final child, my favorite, Chauncey. And he is this green blob that can speak. And he dreams of being a bellhop. And it is just like it is and he practices. He practices being a bellhop every day. Linus comes here to this island. He is bellhopping it up for Linus. He even said, "Hey, I will do your laundry." And Linus was like, "Please don't." Like, I thank you, but please don't. He did it anyway. Plot twist. But and like everyone being other people outside of the house don't understand him. They just see him as like again this monstrous green blob, but he's the sweetest little thing, and he just wants to be a bellhop.
He just wants to serve these people who fear him so much and get tipped. That's all he wants to do.
He's the huffliest puff out of these kids. Like I think that's why I'm like
I do like that he, at the end, they allow him to practice his bellhopping throughout because he can help take care of the orphanage by, carrying people's clothes and working in the kitchen and transporting goods and all that stuff across the building. So sweet.
He's such a sweet little guy. We talked really long about symbolism last week. What's a symbol? And all that fun stuff. We need to tell you more about these symbols that we picked up on. Linus's office and the extremely upper management like we were saying, is very, very gray and blah. Now, when I say gray, I don't mean that there is a mixture of good and bad, although they do believe that in shutting down these orphanages that aren't up to par, they are doing the right thing. So I guess there's gray area in that, but overall, it's like, it's showing that kind of grind culture. Even like when Linus is going in and out of work, it's like so routine that it's boring. It's so routine that there's nothing exciting. There's nothing rewarding to him almost in going into the office. He prefers to be out on the field. And you could see it like even in his like when he's talking about, I think, this other interaction that he had at a different orphanage, that he's like talking to the kid. And like you just see that you see that glimmer of a spark, but the full firework effect really comes when he finally goes to the orphanage that is in a house in the Cerulean Sea. And again, like it just emphasizes how toxic this grind culture is, that it's essentially swallowing your soul, because even with like his commute, I think it took him like what, an hour, no, like 2 hours to get from, I think, like point A to point B. And if you think about like in terms of longevity, like to even develop a personality outside of your work, that's like damn near impossible with that.
I mean, it reflects in like he goes home and does nothing and he hates his neighbor. I mean, he loves his cat because it's his only companion, but even
Mm-hmm.
the way he treats her is just kind of like they're just like blah with each other.
Well, even Calliope is bored with being there. She becomes a whole different cat when once she gets out of the city.
So does he.
Oh, you're right. And he
Yeah.
likes jazz, so he's a cool cat.
He's a cool cat after all. I love that for him. Um, I think that is so true of this grind culture. Like you might go into something like a nonprofit job like this, like a city job, wanting to help people, but the
Mm-hmm.
grind will wear you down and the redundancy and the repetitiveness and like the tasks you're given that are just so dry and tedious. And then, he's constantly, his boss is evil to him too, that
Mm-hmm.
woman. So it's just like you just go because you're getting paid and you're gonna need a pension when you retire, and it was being sent on a mission to shut down a place and like really take a step back and question like who's right here, like who am I actually hurting if I shut this orphanage down? That was what woke him up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So challenging the grind.
Which is what he ends up doing.
Mm-hmm.
Get it.
Claudia, I was thinking that like Linus ends up, his simple life is super boring, and there's so much more he can give, and he can advocate for people because he is a white man in a position where he can do that, right? But
Mm-hmm.
Chauncey is not. Chauncey's a green blob, and all he wants to do is a simple bellhop job. He wants to be able to serve people and make them smile, and then get his little tip at the end. And it just that opposite like relationship, that inverse like is just so like deep. I don't know. It just made me think about it.
Well, even past Chauncey, like if you look at the motives for all the kids, it's just something so simple. Even with Arthur's main motive, his main motive is to protect these kids. And again, it's a complex task, but it's a very simple ask. And even looking at like Theodore, he finds joy in a button, in receiving a button, and like other random little knickknacks here and there. Fee is learning how to hone in her power, and like she finds joy in being in the forest itself. Then we get Lucifer, who is just trying to exist. Like Lucy enjoys music. Like who doesn't? And then we have Talia again, just wanting to be recognized for her gardening. And then Sal just wanting to be loved, basically. or feel accepted. And coming back to what you said, Chauncey, like he just wants to be a bellhop. Like all these kids have a very simple I want. And even thinking about Linus, he does have a simple life, but the Linus that we get at the end of the story also has a simple life, just one with more color
and purpose.
and purpose.
Yeah, and he has a role he believes in now, and he has people that he wants to protect, just like Arthur, and that's what Arthur awakens in him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Burning.
But I like this quote about that kind of sums up all of this. I don't know what page this was on. Sorry, everyone. But Arthur's talking to Linus and telling him that he's precious, basically. But like he says, it's like one of Theodore's buttons. If you asked him why he cared about these buttons, he would tell you it's just because they exist at all. It's the simple things, right? That these kids just want to be recognized and loved for. And, Linus's bigger mission, because he has that power, he has that ability to do that, is to then protect them. So he was sick of his boring life. Mm-hmm. I thought that was just so great.
This book is just so good. I'm sorry to skip to the end.
That's what makes it great, is the end.
I know. And then we have music. Again, it's a shared interest between Linus and Lucy. And it's what really starts causing them to create a relationship, because Linus was at the start keeping everyone at an arm's length, but he had to go, I think, inspect or see all the kids' rooms and such. And he sees Lucy's, we'll call it a room, space. Lucy's space. And he sees these records and he's like, oh my God, you like this? This is awesome. This is not, I saw a record shop in town and this, just saying all these things. And they really bonded over this. And a very pinnacle scene happens in the record shop when they eventually go. And again, it still revolves around music. And I think it also just speaks to how universal music is, despite how different people may be. Something that they can bond over is music.
Absolutely. And I think the fact that it's jazz is also on purpose. Mm-hmm. I think that's another illusion, actually. Because jazz is chaotic. Jazz is about improvisation. Jazz it comes from struggle and, marginalized people, artists, mm-hmm. who are suppressing everything else until they can get on the floor and just break out into jazz. So true. I think that is Lucifer, and I think that's Linus, embodied.
TJ, you did it again! Sorry, future Christina with the audio. And my vocal cords. Sorry.
Damn.
I'm trying to be better. I blame my boss. She got me into that habit of using that voice. I gotta break it. Anyway. So I think you're the best person to cover these illusions.
Oh, some more illusions. Okay, so jazz is the first one. But yeah, in our reread, Mr. Linus Baker, in his weird London, Seattle suburban place, he lives at 86 Hermes Way. Y'all, Hermes is whomst? The messenger god, the communication mm-hmm. master. He brings you to the underworld, too. He brings you to your next destination.
Yes, he does.
What a great choice for the place you're living and you're eventually going to leave. It's the stopover spot, right?
Way down.
Precisement. So, Linus, we discussed his name and his namesake last time too, being the writer, the lyricist. So again, music comes back into this. Communication, oration comes back into this. So I think that's a great place for him to live.
I wonder why 86 was chosen. I always think of 86 this.
I was just going to ask you that.
Because, I know with, I don't know if it's cop speak, but, if you're 86ing something, you're removing something.
No longer available.
So, I wonder, because, numbers have symbolism, too. I was just curious.
I guess that works. Like to he leaves it. He leaves it forever. So
That's
it's
true.
86, and Hermes Way is the next final destination. It's where he's off to next. It's gonna help him get to his next place. Just
Okay, hold on. So I looked up numerology of 86.
blessed.
Ultimately, angel number 86 is an encouraging reminder to focus on manifesting growth and abundance in all aspects of your life, including love.
TJ,
Always remember that the universe is always working for you and will bring you what you need when the time is right.
I'm done with that's it. That's the whole thing. The number of the place he lived in London, Seattle is the story.
Londattle.
Londattle. Londattle. All right.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
Moving
Continue
on.
with,
So
with our illusions.
who lives at 86 Hermes Way with him but his meow, his kitty cat Calliope, who comes across as this grumpy, crotchety kind of man. We were just talking about her. But Calliope actually in Greek myth, once again, she's the muse who presides over eloquence and epic poetry. And guess who her children are? Linus and Orpheus. TJ, what are you doing here? So she was supposedly the wisest of the muses and the most assertive, and she's definitely both of those things. As you mentioned before, she literally comes alive when she gets to that island where there is color, where there is love, where there's passion, where there's
Music.
human music, where there is music, screaming internally. Oh my god. Also, fun ass facts in Disney's Hercules, Calliope is our main muse in the muses.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed.
That would be it. So that's that. Anything else to add about Calliope, Claudia?
I would add her to my cat menagerie that I have here.
You think she would get along with your cats?
Oh, I think she would whip mostly Toothless into place, honestly.
I kind of like that we had all that personality just from a couple interactions, but we could never quite tell how magical or anything. Maybe, I mean, cats, I guess it is said that they have an extra sense, right? They're familiars to witches and whatever. So, yeah, exactly.
It doesn't help that the one that I chose is the black cat, so here we are.
So I like that we're kind of left to wonder about her, especially since she's so enthused when she meets these kids. It's almost like she's with her kind, and I just love that for her. Yeah. Okay, so that brings us to the last illusion, which is Marsyas, which is a satyr. So y'all know satyrs are
Philatides.
Yeah, so it's a male nature spirit. They have the ears and tail of a horse or something, or sometimes it's a
goat.
Yeah, sometimes it's a goat.
At least in Disney's Hercules, Phil was a goat.
Yeah.
Well, half goat.
Yeah, I also thought it was a goat. I was just reading and it said horse, and I was like, I thought that was a centaur.
Yeah, that's very centaur-y. I don't what?
But most importantly, an exaggerated erection.
Yes.
That's the most important, the phallus. So they often were up to no good. So why is this the place? we want to know. Well, Marsyas himself was a musician. He played a double oboe. So one day he's satyring along and he comes across the goddess Athena's double oboe that she would play, and he goes, "Ha, Apollo, I'm going to challenge you to a contest of music." Ends up losing his life. So, yeah, let's look at the disambiguation for this. Nope. So the illusion is kind of sad. My guess would be we're calling the island place Marsyas because these kids are punished for being different, or for, just like in X-Men, mutants are feared, and but these kids don't have hubris where this satyr did, and that's kind of what his downfall was and how he got to an awful death. There's also a wise Marsyas. In other tellings. You know how, like, in myth, there's, like, like 5 versions of things sometimes, and, like,
Well, yeah.
different villages will have a temple to a specific god, and then that'll be, like, their major, like, benevolent deity, or, like, whatever in that
Yeah.
world. Okay. So, this edition of Marsyas was admired for his intelligence and self-control, which the Greeks did not normally attribute to satyrs. So this was a special satyr.
He did not have a permanent erection.
Correct. I guess he was not a phallic satyr. I'm not really sure. There was a statue of this guy in the Roman Forum. And Plato had written about him as, like, talking to Socrates. So, yeah. So in this case, this Marsyas was the inventor of, like, prophecy. So I guess that suits more so this island of Marsyas. So this is one of those examples of an illusion that you're just like, did you just like that word?
Because, like, that's fine. It'd be like that.
Yeah. I liked in our last episode, you were talking about, like, teachers will dig into text, and sometimes, like, the author just picks blue to pick blue. But I do think this secondary version, I think, suits the purpose. The illusion is that this is a prophetic place. Like, this place holds a holiness, just like Parnassus, Arthur Parnassus, is the headmaster on Marsyas, at Marsyas Orphanage, right? So there's, like, a whole mystical, magical, sacred place quality to it.
A safe haven.
A safe haven. Yeah, thank you. That was literally what I was trying to say. Thank you. But this statue that I was talking about in the forum is a symbol of liberty, and that is absolutely what Arthur Parnassus is for his kids.
Yeah.
But what a windy road we just went down.
So while we were going down that road, I came up with a working title. The musical.
And what would that be?
The musical Satyrs of TJ Klune's Londattle.
I'm crying.
Again, working title. We'll see what else comes up in conversation. But I do need to complain, and I started complaining about this. I wanted more sprites.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted more utilization of Fee and Zoe. Like, we got Zoe, but I wanted to see more of their interactions with one another. And I think we only really got, like, one that Arthur sees. And granted, they probably did have more interactions, but because it's primarily told in Linus's point of view, it could also be why we didn't receive very many moments like this, because they were off in the forest typically, you know, having their one-on-ones, their tutoring sessions. And, you know, again, I would have just enjoyed seeing them interact more, because for me, Zoe almost seemed like I don't want to say mom, but like an aunt for Fee.
Like a mentor.
Yeah, mentor. And, like, I don't know, I think that's something very important for anyone to have. And I think it would have added more depth to Fee. Because I feel like out of all the kids, we have less face time with her. And so, I'm not going to lie to you, I kind of forgot that Fee existed after a while.
Mm-hmm.
Not to be that guy. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I agree. And in that one scene with Linus and Zoe and Fee, it's important because she shows Linus her supreme ability to, like, grow life from nothing. And I think that was a huge moment for him. And I just felt like the other kids had more moments like that with him, and she only got that one interaction with him with her great power.
Yeah, and because I think of, like, the interactions with literally all of them, because there are multiple instances with Talia, there are multiple instances with Theodore and Chauncey and Sal, a lot with Sal and Lucy.
Girl.
That it's just like, it felt like Fee was an afterthought, and as a result, Fee was an afterthought for me.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I mean, how many buttons did he give to Theodore?
So many. So,
and I feel like another, I don't want to well, we're here to explain and complain, right? So here you
yes.
go. So we did all that explaining. We've been explaining. So the complaint is really, Talia is a gardening gnome. So she already is in the domain of forestry and agriculture and plants and botany and herbology. So then we get Fee briefly, who can also grow things. And all we're told is she has this like phenomenal cosmic power to like grow from nothing. Like I was just saying before to you. But we only see it happen one time. And then like Zoe is already a sprite. So yeah, it very much felt afterthoughty. Like, did we need 6 kids? Oh, what's the numerology of 6?
Well, 6 is seen as the imperfect number if we're talking.
Thank you.
Oh Lord. Shy Guy surprising?
Shy Guy threw a box of tissues at me.
That's rude.
Well, actually, a tri-box.
Oh my God. Try. That looked like 4.
It's 4, a quad box.
Quad box.
I can't count.
It's okay.
So Fee and Talia and Zoe.
I mean, why couldn't they grow things together?
And like with all the lore of sprites that could be tapped into.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even for Zoe.
So, hold on, because you were asking what the symbolism of 6 is.
And that's what I started to look up. And then I got a tissue quad thrown at me, but also in my head I was going, and tonight we are live!
That's going to be great for you to edit later.
Listen up, let me tell you a story. 6 represents Venus, and it is a symbol of the union between partners. When 6 is reflected in a person, the person is artistic and creative. There you go.
Oh, I was going with religious symbolism. My bad.
What's the religious symbolism?
It is seen as the devil number. It is also seen as the imperfect number because 7 is meant to be the perfect number. But if you think about it, the Trinity is 3 and 6 is the Trinity doubled.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And I don't remember, but from the podcast that I listened to, I think they had a possession episode or like 5. And for one of them, I don't know, but the devil, I think, has a few different names that he goes by or something like that as well.
There's 3 adults and there's 6 kids.
So 9.
Oh no, I'll look up 9 in a second. But somehow I ended up on stepsoffaith.com. Thanks for sending me there. 6 represents, in the Bible, man's weakness because man was created on the 6th day.
That makes sense.
The kids are Linus's weakness, actually.
Mm-hmm, they are.
Oh, I love that.
So I looked up what 9 means in numerology. And it means attainment, a new beginning, completion, power, recognition, satisfaction, wisdom, and spiritual awakening.
Can't tell me that wasn't on purpose.
Not I. Let's see. I'm probably going to find the same source that you had for 6.
Steps of Faith, medium. Shout out.
6 is known as the mother of all numbers in numerology, since it deals with familial responsibilities and keeping people together.
You know who else might help us understand numbers? George R.R. Martin. So you know how this... Wait.
I just didn't expect you to say, you know who? Germ. Dun, dun,
So
dun, dun, dun.
The faith of the 7, right? Let me see who 6 is.
Mm.
The crone, who symbolizes wisdom.
Ah.
All of these are like, they fall within each other, like nesting dolls.
Okay. Wow. Look at us. Digging deep.
Oh, okay. And also in the Faith of the Seven, so y'all, we'll link to this or something. In the Faith of the Seven, the third deity or the third face of the many-faced god is the warrior. So the three adults are the warriors for the six.
Oh, that makes sense.
That's pretty awesome.
Holla.
And and that's just another great example of an author, Germ in this case, pulling allusions and symbolism from established literature and stories, oral tradition, and cultural beliefs, and crafting something based on those things that you can then like cross reference in this way. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Ugh. Yeah, because honestly, we literally just went on a deep dive for like a solid 10 minutes of just number representation.
Yeah, this was at 50 something minutes and now it's an hour. So that was numerology 101, y'all.
You're welcome. Complain away,
So
ma'am.
the my biggest complaint, believe it or not, wasn't that. Despite this deep dive, I actually really wanted more of the drama from the extremely upper management representative who sends Linus on this adventure.
Mm-hmm.
His name was Charles. He had some severe drama with Arthur Parnassus, the headmaster,
He was
and
also
I
hot.
thought he was also supposed, yeah, like super super hot, and that was very clearly established. So there was like very much guesswork that we had to put together that there was a fling when he was sent there to investigate many years
Mm-hmm.
ago. And I just thought flashbacks would have been the tea. Like, why was I not rewarded with that? I don't know. Maybe it was too much negativity.
I think also, though, it was probably giving trauma for Arthur to be reliving that. So, yes, that. But also, I think if it was told through Arthur's point of view, we would have gotten the tea.
I think you're right. I mean, it was like an omniscient or whatever narrator,
Yeah, but it was primarily,
narrator.
but it was very much like a bias, like through Linus's eyes, like very
Yeah,
much like Harry Potter. Like it was omniscient, but through Harry's perspective. That was the word I couldn't think of before.
perspective. Good old Pop.
Pop, pop. You're reading this book.
Pop.
That's amazing. Oh,
Okay. Other than that, I don't really think I had any other complaints. I think the build up to getting to the orphanage was slow, and I think Linus was almost intolerable for a large chunk of the book, but it was necessary for his character. All of those things
yep.
had to be that way for the character change. And I, at the end, appreciated that I didn't like the main character for a really long time.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. I remember me going, "Oh my god, he's so sad. I want to hug him," and you're like, "I hate him. Stop it. He just do something."
Yeah, and I guess that's like, again, I just keep like fixating on he has power. He, in this situation, like, he is a gay man, but
Mm-hmm.
he's a white man and he understands how CPS, Child Protective Services in this case, at Dicomey works, and he knows the ins and outs and he can protect all these people. So it's just like he has to fall into that recognition that he can do these things.
You're right, but also when you so two things. When you are in a sea of many people that look exactly like you and you see that others have more power than you're going to believe that you are run of the mill, that you're nothing special. And that's what happens to him. And on top of that, if if you are told to stay in this pool and you're not going to go anywhere past this pool, like you're going to believe that after a while. And so I think that's part of why Linus doesn't see the true potential of his power, because he's never really given the opportunity to see the potential of his power until he is needed by Iam. Oh, what you got? Ow.
Yeah, except I definitely need to put this on. Thank you. I'm on mute because I don't want my background noise to pick up while you were
That's fine.
pontificating there, but I 100% am in agreement with that. He needed, like you said, he needs to go to the blue sea, the Cerulean Sea, to uncover his true colors.
Yeah, he did. Little bub. Little bub. Oh, I love him. So, I don't know about you, but I identified. Well, wait, were you going to say something else? Sorry. I saw pointies. That's why I was like, what happened?
I already forgot what I was going to say.
I'm sorry.
And it was just going to be like an emphatic agreement with you.
Okay. Sorry. But I don't know if I identify with this kid the most, all right? But I love him so much. Chauncey. Because, again, like, I feel like as I've gotten older, I've also just had very simple pleasures in life. Like, I very much want a job that, like, just stays at work. I want my weekends. I want to be able to see my friends. And to me, that's very simple, much like the dream that Chauncey has. Granted, his dream is very much like a lofty dream for him, given his status within society, or rather the status that is forced upon him. Um, and I would say I'm loud about who I am. And it's just that either you love me or you hate me. So I wouldn't say that that I am like him. I would argue that I'm probably closer to the mayor or Zoe.
Interesting, because they end up together.
I know, but like just in terms of how like the mayor, there is this one moment where the mayor does stand up for the kids, basically for the whole orphanage against this like very bigoted person. And I feel like that's more so me and who I am. That you see injustice, you're gonna state that there is an injustice that's happening and you need to fix it. And fix your thinking, because your thinking's wrong. Sorry.
Fix your thinking.
So the kid I would want to adopt is Chauncey, but obviously I would have to adopt all of them because they come as a package deal. But I think I'm more so the mayor.
Well, so for me, Theodore, he reminds me of my dog. So I think that's why so every time he was in the story, it just like my heart would just turn inside out. However, I think in terms of relatability for kids, unfortunately, I don't know enough about feet, but all shade.
Klune.
I think the child who I had some, and not to the depths, but I've been in for many years, not any recent years, but I had been in a position where I was so shy and scared of a lot of people like Sal that I would just turn inward. So I understood that, and I think, for me that made him a little hard to read, but also it was just seeing him come out of that and seeing all the supportive people in his life help him move through it made me really, 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 really happy.
Yeah. Hug. I also, in general, I do think, like you were saying, the growth with Linus, it's just a logical progression. And I think it's the most realistic portrayal of that kind of growth, because that kind of growth isn't going to happen overnight. I think that Clune did a good job with portraying that natural progression of somebody shifting their thinking and noticing the power that they have.
Preach. A lot of why early Linus bothered me was because before I became a speech pathologist, I think I was a lot like him, work-wise. Like, I just wanted to go to work and get it done with. I didn't really understand what it meant to help and serve others and how I can use my privilege to do just that. So I think he was pissing me off because I was like you just said, I was always complaining, like, do something, take initiative, advocate, and he didn't until he did, and then he really did. He saves the day, right?
Yeah, and I mean, just kind of piggybacking, when you were working at a particular place, I will not name it here, I will say downtown, way downtown. It was more so, I think at that point you were very much like Linus, like very frustrated with that day in and day out, kind of that you weren't being utilized to your utmost potential. And there was this one interaction that kind of sparked the fire in you to become more of an advocate, if you catch my drift.
Mm-hmm. Again, it comes down to working in these jobs where they're not forgiving, right? You're there to do, it's not even grunt work, you know? Like, I mean, he's really there to save children, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm there to treat people of whatever age group we're talking about right now.
Correct.
You're given your set of tasks, and then they're immeasurable, and there's so many loopholes, and there's so much red tape, and it's like, how do you do this? Until finally something sets you off where you're like, nope, I'm here to put on a cape and protect you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you.
I sent you a side tag.
Oh, hold up. I think I know exactly what you're talking about. Oh, girl! So this particular individual who I used to work with, who had like literally no sense of concern for any other human being because they had a doctorates in this setting, was so appalling. Like, I use her anecdotally when I teach people about my industry and like the advocacy that is entailed within it. Like, I use her as like a this is what not to do model.
As you should.
Constantly.
I'm glad that they gave you material of what not to do. Because everyone should have context of what they should and should not do. Do's and don'ts, if you will.
Do's and don'ts. Do's and nevers.
Did I do a good job, though, without naming things?
I knew exactly what you're talking about.
It's like charades. You know, all those years where we've had silent conversations about things that are happening around us really paid off. Because when I have to apply words, I could just look at you and be like, so you know that thing with the thing.
Oh, yeah.
Down at by the thing. Anyway, so...
I will always know.
Excellent. Always said Snape. Sorry. Anyway, one quote that just hit me right in the heartstrings, too, with this book.
Well-timed quote for our conversation.
It does apply. The quote is, "Change often starts with the smallest of whispers. Like-minded people building it up to a roar." I feel like this particular quote just hits me like so hard because like even with something as small as, for example, if when I was teaching, there was like a few times where like maybe on a Google form that I utilized as a quiz, I selected the wrong one and I'm grading it and I just see, wow, everybody got that wrong? Pfft, that sucks. And then I carry on. And then they're like, no, you said this, but this is what I put and it was wrong. What the hell? And I'm like, that's valid. Crap. And then I'd look to see what happened or, you know, how many people got it wrong. And I would see that it's like a majority of people. I'm like, damn, I goofed. And so because of that one little person saying like, yo, the hell, it forced me to kind of like look at things retroactively and be like, yeah, you get a point. And granted, that's a very small thing. But even if we look at something more worldwide, with any protest, really, if there is at least one person that says that something's wrong and they are pointing it out, they can gain a following. That whisper can become a roar. That whisper can become, let's say, a policy change. That can become, and like maybe that's just me being very idealistic, but it has happened in the past. Granted, a lot of time maybe passes when that happens, but you know, with that in mind, it's just, I feel like this quote really applies to not only this book, but also as almost like a universal truth, kind of like music.
Yeah, man. So I actually originally picked that quote, and then I found out she picked it. And then ironically, my second quote was the page before. So we clearly both really just like were into this conversation that Arthur and Linus were having.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Arthur's first, or maybe, yeah, I think it was his first kind of dance with trying to get Linus to realize how special he can be if he just sees it within himself.
Mm-hmm.
So the quote that I picked secondarily was, "Sometimes our prejudices color our thoughts when we least expect them to. If we can recognize that and learn from it, we can become better people."
Mm-hmm.
So that was on 104. Actually, and this really fits into your mention of my former colleague.
True.
This is a great way to talk about implicit bias. And the fact that when you are experiencing a negative reaction to someone who's different from you, a prejudice that you have, it's normal to have those things. We all grow up in a culture where that happens. Like, that's just what's going to happen. But it's important that you pause and you reflectively respond to that feeling. And you ask yourself, why did I feel that way? Alternatively, you can ask other people, why did you say that? Why do you feel that way? Right? And that's how you can kind of combat it in your environment with your colleagues. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, because some people have that capability of self-reflection. Others do not. And so by being the external prompter, if you will, you help them in self-reflecting.
Correct.
Or in this case, it becomes a conversation because it's a dialogue, whatever. But it becomes more of a discussion point. It becomes more of a flag, so to speak.
Yeah, dude. That's how you are an advocate in real life. Sometimes you have to help people see it because they aren't ready or they haven't realized. Some people need their like cultural bubble shattered a little to recognize there's other people in the world different from them.
People need to feel uncomfortable or comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're going in education with a lot of like curriculums at this point, which is good. Like, it needs to happen. It's just that educators need to, and advocators as well, need to, regardless of what age or what generation they are, need to get that memo and deal with it themselves before they deal with it with others.
Big facts. Our last two quotes kind of about changing. I think a huge theme was growth and change.
Oh, yeah.
In the book as well. But I want to say we kind of touched on that last week.
Definitely.
Some other thematic elements throughout. Number one, love is love. Happy Pride. We've got, pride is part of being different from a societal norm, and who cares, right?
Yeah.
Because love is love.
Be you. Be different.
Be you. Be different. And on that note, all of the kids are different, right? And different usually scares folks. This is where implicit bias comes in. No one's seen a female garden gnome. No one's seen a green blob or a wyvern. So they're scared of those kids.
Yeah, and even thinking about like Lucy and Sal, for example, they have undergone a lot of abuse in some way, shape, or form. Whether it is physical abuse or even mental abuse. That it's like, you are being forced to believe that you are this monster. You are forced to believe and say things about yourself that don't necessarily apply to you. Because I even think that at one point Lucy does call himself the Antichrist, or he says like, I'm the Antichrist, and like just kind of carries on. But low key, now that I'm thinking about it, part of me is like, maybe he was trying to like reclaim the word Antichrist. Like, how a lot of women are trying to, or not trying to, that women are reclaiming the word bitch. That it's a matter of you taking a derogatory term and making it so that it is not necessarily part of your lingo, but you are making it a better version of what it once was. You're reclaiming it. You're making it better. You're making it a good term. So, I don't know. I might be overthinking about the Antichrist and Lucy, but like, again,
reclaim I love that tangent.
That's it. Reclaiming it. And then, Yeah, Fee and Arthur concealing their powers, concealing their identities because, well, last week we talked about the Phoenix, and it turns out, sorry, you already know that there are spoilers coming in here, so if you made it this far,
You've been spoiled.
you've been spoiled so many times, so we're going to spoil you again. So Arthur is actually a phoenix, and that is not on his file, I don't think. And it is like this huge discovery that Linus gets when he walks into this cellar that is made of metal, I think, or like flame retardant. Um, and Arthur reveals himself to Linus, and it's, Linus isn't scared. He's like, "Whoa, you're beautiful. Holy crap." And like this man already thought this other man was gorgeous, but that's neither here nor there. Um, but again, like throughout this, I think this is like in the last maybe like 30% of the book that you get this information. And maybe that's me being generous too. Um, and just the fact that he and Fee have been hiding this power, hiding this identity that they have. And I would argue that they have like the most active power, like active physical power.
Definitely that.
Because, like, with Lucy, I feel like most of his power comes when he's, like, unconscious.
Oh, his nightmares.
Yeah.
Also, very much a mental health parallel for him.
It is. The baby.
But I agree with you there. Also on the note of pride, Zoe and the mayor, they have a romance as well.
Mm-hmm.
The mayor being a female. So that was a surprise at the end that they ended up getting together, and that was through advocating for these kids again. That's how they met. So I love that.
I would have liked to see more interactions with them. So I had another complaint that I forgot about. I'm sorry.
True. Yeah, it's just kind of like all of a sudden it's there and everyone's surprised by it and nobody talks about it. But I guess also, we respect people's relationships, blossom or whatever.
Home isn't a place is another theme. Home it's where your family is. And up until this point, Linus, for example, did not have a family, or at least not a true family, really, until he was assigned this house in the Cerulean Sea. I love that.
And those kids are orphans, so they are each other's family, and Arthur is their patriarch.
Yeah, there's Daddy.
So there's Daddy. But it is a found family, which I know is a huge theme in this element of, home's not a location. It's the people you surround yourselves with.
And I mean, even looking at a lot of members of the LGBTQIA+, they have, many have had to find or have their chosen family, because many have had their blood family, biological, that's the word, biological families reject them after coming out to them, or, however way that coming out came. And so, it's very evident in this story that is also a major theme, and I do love that.
Also, on that note, I like that there was a constant theme that acceptance of others and yourself will lead to a joyful and fulfilled life. Because everybody who was not accepting of others and themselves was not fulfilled. Linus is literally start to finish different person. Arthur, when he tells us kind of about his Phoenix story and how it came out and how people finally saw him as a Phoenix for the first time, it wasn't until he found his self-joy and his self-love that he was fulfilled and became a headmaster to protect other kids in his situation. Yeah. Charles from the EUM, never fulfilled. Just miserable.
I would also argue Sal.
Yes.
I would argue Sal, too, would fall under a great example of that particular theme. Because he was so accepting of others, but similarly to Arthur and Linus, too, they didn't have that self-love that leads to that full fulfillment.
Whereas like Talia, Chauncey, Theodore, I guess Fee, we don't really know.
Question mark.
Question mark. They have those small things they love, and they are okay with who they are, and they just question, like, why are people so mean to me? You know?
Yeah, like, they know that they're not the problem. They're like, everyone else is the problem, and I don't understand why everyone else is the problem.
Facts. So I think that's a great theme. And they're also like a roller coaster of feelings that this journey took us on.
I mean, yes, but also it's expected with kids.
It is. Which is what we've both done. And we actually already touched on all of this. Just the fact that we are, we both are in professions where we kind of represent underdogs, so to speak. Not underdogs. But we represent them, fight for them, advocate for them. And that's why I think a lot of parts of this story really hit us. It wasn't just Linus being annoying. It was why he was annoying in the beginning. Because I know the work he was doing was eating him alive, And so do you.
Oh, yeah.
But at the end of the day, Linus, who is so by the book, who was so rule-oriented, he was so into, just doing what he had to do, he had to learn that what is best is more important than what's right. So it was a question of ethics, which I also appreciated.
Yeah, because, again, it's not necessarily what is written. It's what's the best thing for the situation. I'm glad that he saw the light.
On the Cerulean Sea.
Needless to say, I think we both love this book.
Mm-hmm.
So much love. Love, 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 love. It was a very, very well thought out story. Honestly, I think everybody should do it. Like, take it, find this book, read this book, give it to a friend to read so that you can talk about it with them. It has all the things.
It's such a human experience from start to finish. Like, all of it is something you've encountered before. Some part of it you've encountered in your own life in some way.
Because I feel like everyone at some point has felt like an outsider, has felt like where they feel the most at home. And that could be biological family, that could be chosen family, whatever home means to you. And I think because of these universal topics that it covers, I think, honestly, it's going to be hard for anybody to hate it.
Yeah, there's something for everyone that you can relate to and kind of hold on to while you're reading it.
Yeah.
For sure. I think on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being trash and 10 being glorious, I would rate it I am frustrated that those 2 characters were so, like, thrown off to the side. I'd probably give it, like, an 8.75.
I agree. I would maybe steer a little closer to 9, personally. So, like, maybe I'll be more of, like, an 8.857.
Wow. I thought 8.75 was steering close to 9, but all right.
No. All those numbers. Oh, no, wait. Actually, I lied. I'm going to do an 8.786 because 86.
Oh, we love this. 8.6. Ultimately, that means take it. Don't take it or leave it. Don't leave it. Take the book. Borrow it. DM us if you need it. We can get it to you. Read this book. You will get something.
You're going to feel things. Before we go, we do need to make some announcements. First, in case you haven't seen on the socials, next month is Disability Pride Month, and we want to celebrate this month in a few ways. One way, we are reading Get a Life, Chloe Brown, and that is the highlight of that of book club for that month. The second thing that we would like to spotlight is you guys. For anyone who has experienced an invisible or visible disability within their life, whether personally or through a family member, through a friend, we want to hear your stories. So you want to tell them how they could share their stories with us?
On Instagram, go to our link in bio, and there's a Google form you can fill out, or you can share with somebody if you're willing to, and you can share your information anonymously, give yourself a cool name, whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
We can also have this link posted in the comment section for both of our July videos.
Oh yeah, and we hope that you read this book with us. I hear nothing but good things. Oh, and we're gonna have a guest.
So actually, the person who recommended this book to us is going to be our guest speaker on the second, so on the book club discussion episode. So we look forward to having her here.
Yay! You already know. We release our pod notes. They will be available via Google Docs on that same link tree that will also have the survey. And other places to find us. You can find us on YouTube at Evilly Yours English, Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, both at evilly.english. What? Evilly? Doing it again. It's gonna be great. Keep the blooper. I think that's great. It's gonna be awesome. Anyway, we're gonna try this one more time. You can also find us on Instagram, TikTok, and Spotify at evilly.yours.english. And don't forget, we're also on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. I think that's as smooth as it's going to be for me.
Stunning. Perfection.
I'm trying.
So wherever you are, thank you for listening to us and joining us and being part of our family. We love to have you.
We do. And
so,
yeah.
Yes, if you need a copy of Chloe Brown, DM us or just go to in our Instagram bio. There is a link to a folder with resources for you. So please go ahead and peruse that. Okay?
Peruse away. Oh, and you could check out our upcoming books even after that one.
The format will be the same. The first episode of the month, we'll do a little bit of breakdown, kind of like instructional kind of guidance through the book, things we think are important to pay attention to. And then in the second book, we will kind of go over the story and how we felt about it. So thank you all.
Thank you. And also, again, happy Pride.
Happy Pride. Be kind to others.